Hello, my dear friend. Today, I'm excited to share a special story with you. It's a love story, and love stories always have a way of captivating our hearts. This one is about a boy named Alex and his unique connection with two girls, Emma and Lily. It's a simple story, so everyone can follow along, but it's filled with emotions, choices, and moments that can change someone's life forever. This isn't a complicated love triangle, but rather a story of learning how to navigate feelings, respect others, and understand yourself. Now, the story starts with Alex introducing himself, sharing his perspective on love, and how he found himself in this unexpected situation. You'll see the conversations he has with both Emma and Lily, and how each relationship shapes him. It's a gentle, heartwarming tale, perfect for anyone who loves stories about emotions and personal growth. Story. Hi, my name is Alex. I never thought I would find myself in this situation, caught between two wonderful people who both mean so much to me. But here I am, trying to figure out how to handle everything without hurting anyone, including myself. Let me start from the beginning. I met Emma during our last year of school. She was that girl who had this quiet confidence, someone you wouldn't notice right away, but once you did, you couldn't stop thinking about her. We became good friends quickly, and before I knew it, I started feeling something more than friendship. Emma and I shared a lot in common, our love for books, quiet afternoons, and deep conversations about life. It felt natural, comfortable even, like we were meant to find each other. But then, there was Lily. I met her a year later at a mutual friend's party. She was the complete opposite of Emma, bright, full of energy, and always the center of attention. There was something about her that drew me in, like her energy was contagious. With Lily, I felt alive in a way I hadn't before. We clicked almost instantly, and suddenly, I was spending more and more time with her. You see, I never planned for this to happen. I never wanted to be caught in this confusing situation. But as I got closer to Lily, I couldn't ignore the fact that I still had feelings for Emma. It wasn't just a passing crush. It was something real. So, here I was, feeling torn between these two incredible people and not sure what to do next. Emma, with her quiet strength, never pushed me to make a decision. She was patient, understanding, and never demanded more than what I was ready to give. We had this connection that was so deep, and I knew she cared about me. But Emma was also someone who valued space and didn't need constant attention, which sometimes made me question if I was enough for her. Lily, on the other hand, was all about the here and now. She loved big, laughed loud, and never hesitated to show how much she cared. Being with her felt like an adventure, like I was always discovering something new. But with Lily, there was always this fear that the excitement might fade, and I wasn't sure what would happen if it did. So, there I was, trying to balance these two parts of my life. I didn't want to hurt either of them, and most of all, I didn't want to make a mistake that I couldn't take back. It wasn't just about choosing between Emma and Lily. It was about figuring out who I was and what I truly wanted. Emma started noticing the time I was spending with Lily. One evening, we were sitting at our favorite cafe, the one with the worn-out couches and old records playing in the background, when she finally asked me, "Alex, are you okay? I feel like you're distant lately." I could hear the worry in her voice, and I hated that I was the cause of it. "I'm fine," I lied. "It's just been a lot to think about." Emma didn't push any further, but I could tell she knew something was off. That's the thing about her. She always knew when something was bothering me, even when I didn't say anything. Then there was Lily. I hadn't told her about Emma, and I felt guilty about it. Every time I saw Lily, the guilt gnawed at me. But she was always so happy to see me, pulling me into her world of fun and excitement, and for a while, I'd forget about everything else. One night, after a particularly fun evening out with Lily, I found myself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't keep doing this. I had to make a choice. I knew that staying in between these two amazing girls wasn't fair to any of us. The next morning, I called Emma. "Can we talk?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "Of course," she said, her voice calm as always. We met at the cafe, and I told her everything, about Lily, about my feelings, about how confused I was. It was the hardest conversation I'd ever had. I expected her to be angry or hurt, but instead, she just sat there listening quietly. When I finished, she smiled sadly. "Alex, I appreciate your honesty," she said. "But you need to figure out what you want. Not for me, not for Lily, but for yourself. You deserve to be happy, and so do we." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Emma wasn't just thinking about herself, she was thinking about all of us. And I realized in that moment that she was right. I knew what I had to do. I met with Lily the next day. This conversation wasn't easy either, but it was necessary. I told her about Emma, about the feelings I still had for her, and how I couldn't keep living in this in-between space. To my surprise, Lily didn't get upset. Instead, she gave me a hug and said, "Alex, you need to follow your heart. We had something special, but if your heart is with Emma, then that's where you need to be." And just like that, the decision became clear. It wasn't about who was better or who made me feel more alive. It was about who I could see myself with, long-term, building something real and lasting. That person was Emma. I went back to her, ready to commit fully. And as we sat together, holding hands in the same cafe where we'd had so many conversations, I knew I had made the right choice. After that day with Emma, things started to feel different. Not just in our relationship, but inside me too. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I wasn't divided anymore. I had clarity. I had made my choice, and it was the right one. Emma was everything I needed, and now that I had decided to be with her fully, I was ready to put in the effort it took to make our relationship work. But of course, life isn't always that simple. Even though Emma had accepted my decision with grace, the reality of the situation still lingered. I could tell there were moments when she was hesitant, as if she didn't fully trust that I had truly moved on from Lily. And honestly, I couldn't blame her. Relationships, after all, are built on trust, and I knew I had tested hers. One evening, a few weeks after I had told Lily the truth, Emma and I were at her place watching a movie. I was distracted, though, thinking about how everything had played out. Out of nowhere, Emma paused the movie and turned to me. "Alex," she started, her voice soft but firm, "I trust you. I do. But sometimes I can't help but wonder, are you really over her?" Her words caught me off guard, but I knew she needed to hear my answer. "Emma," I said, looking into her eyes, "I made my choice because I know what I want. It's you. And I'm not going to let anything from the past come between us." She nodded, but I could tell it would take time for her to fully believe it. And that's okay. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. I knew I had to show her through my actions that I was in this for the long haul. The next few months were a mix of happiness and small, quiet struggles. Emma and I fell into a comfortable routine, long walks in the park, lazy Sundays, and dinners at our favorite little Italian place. We spent more time together than ever, and for the most part, things were great. But every once in a while, the shadow of my past with Lily would pop up, usually in small, unexpected ways, like the time we ran into her at a mutual friend's gathering. I hadn't seen Lily since the day I told her about my decision. I knew it was bound to happen eventually, but I wasn't prepared for the awkwardness that came with it. She was polite, friendly even, but there was a distance between us now, one that wasn't there before. Emma noticed it too. After the party, as we were walking back home, she was quiet for a while. Finally, she said, "That was weird, wasn't it?" "Yeah, it was," I admitted. "Do you think it'll always be like that with her?" "I don't know," I replied honestly, "but I'm hoping with time, things will get easier." We didn't talk much more about it after that, but I could tell Emma was still processing everything. And I couldn't blame her. The truth is, relationships are rarely ever just about two people. There are always outside influences, past relationships, mutual friends, memories that linger, that can complicate things. But through it all, I was committed to making things work with Emma. I loved her. I knew that, without a doubt, and I was willing to face whatever challenges came our way, as long as we were in it together. One evening, as we sat on the porch of her apartment, watching the sunset, Emma turned to me with a small smile. "You know," she said, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about how far we've come, and how much more we still have to figure out." I smiled back at her. "Yeah, me too. But I think I'm ready to fully trust you again, Alex. I know you chose me, and I know that wasn't an easy choice. But I also know that you're here, with me, and that's what matters most." Her words warmed my heart in a way I hadn't expected. This wasn't just a declaration of trust. It was a promise that we were both willing to keep moving forward, together. From that moment on, things felt different between us. There was a new sense of ease in our relationship, a deeper understanding that we were in this for real. The doubts that once lingered began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence in each other. As for Lily, our paths still crossed from time to time, but the awkwardness lessened with each encounter. Over time, she found someone new, and I was genuinely happy for her. We both moved on, in our own ways. Life moved forward, as it always does. Emma and I continued building our life together, one step at a time. There were still challenges, of course, work, family, the usual stuff that life throws at you, but we faced them together, side by side. Looking back, I realized that my journey with Emma and Lily wasn't just about love. It was about learning to make choices, about understanding myself and what I wanted in life. It was about trust and how fragile it can be, but also how strong it can become if you nurture it. Most of all, it was about growth. I grew a lot during that time, and so did Emma. Together, we became stronger, not just as a couple, but as individuals too. Life kept moving forward for me and Emma. We had settled into a rhythm, but, as with anything in life, new faces and experiences were waiting just around the corner. Some of these would challenge our relationship in ways I hadn't expected. It started with a new job I got. I'd been working in my old position for a while, and although it paid the bills, it didn't excite me. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got an offer from a company looking for someone with my skills. It was a big opportunity, one that could really change things for me and Emma. The new job came with new responsibilities, new people, and, as it turns out, new challenges. That's where Mia came in. Mia was my co-worker, and from the first day, we clicked. Not in the same way that Emma and I had clicked. There was no romantic spark. But Mia and I shared the same sense of humor, and we quickly became close friends. She was someone I could talk to at work, someone who understood the stress and the pressure we were both under. At first, everything was normal. I would come home and tell Emma about my new job, my new colleagues, and she was happy for me. She was glad I had found something I was passionate about. But as my friendship with Mia grew, I noticed small changes in Emma. She didn't say anything at first, but I could sense it. Her quiet concern, the way she would listen just a little too carefully when I mentioned Mia's name. Then, one evening, as we were having dinner, Emma asked, "So you and Mia seem pretty close, huh?" I could hear the worry in her voice, and I immediately reassured her. "Yeah, we are. But it's nothing like that, Emma. She's just a friend, someone at work who gets what I'm going through." Emma smiled, but I could tell she wasn't fully convinced. "I know, Alex. I trust you. But I've been here before, remember? With Lily. And it's hard not to worry." Her words hit me. She wasn't accusing me of anything, but the memory of what had happened with Lily was still fresh in her mind. I knew I had to be careful, not just for Emma's sake, but for the sake of our relationship. So, I made a conscious effort to put boundaries in place with Mia. I didn't want to make the same mistakes I had in the past. I stopped sharing every little detail about her with Emma, and I made sure to prioritize my time with her. But no matter how careful I was, the fact remained. Mia was still a part of my life, and Emma knew it. Then there was Jake. Jake was one of Emma's old friends from college. They had lost touch for a while, but he had recently moved back to the city and reached out to reconnect. I didn't think much of it at first. Emma had friends, just like I did, and I trusted her. But as time went on, I noticed that she was spending more and more time with him. They would go out for coffee or grab lunch together during the week. And while Emma always told me about it, I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. One Friday night, Emma came home after having dinner with Jake. I could tell she was in a good mood, laughing about some story he had told her. But as she talked, I felt a pang of jealousy. "Jake seems like a great guy," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "He is," Emma replied. "It's nice catching up with him. He's been through a lot lately, and I'm glad I can be there for him." I nodded, but something inside me didn't sit right. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend, especially after everything Emma had put up with when it came to Lily and now Mia. But I couldn't help it. The more time she spent with Jake, the more I worried that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel the same kind of confusion I had felt back then. One weekend, Emma and I decided to go out of town for a short getaway, hoping to spend some quality time together. We went hiking, enjoyed nature, and for the first time in a while, it was just us, no distractions. On the second evening, while we were sitting by a campfire, Emma brought up Jake. "I've been thinking a lot about us lately," she said, staring into the fire, "and about how things change when new people come into our lives." I looked at her, not sure where she was going with this. "I love you, Alex," she continued, "but I won't lie. Sometimes when I'm with Jake, I wonder what it would have been like if we had dated back in college. We were really close back then, and now that we've reconnected, it's brought back some old feelings." Her honesty stunned me, but I appreciated it. She wasn't telling me she wanted to be with Jake, but the fact that she had these feelings worried me. I could see how she had struggled with her thoughts, much like I had with Lily. "I understand, Emma," I said slowly. "It's hard when feelings from the past resurface. But just like you stood by me when I was confused about Lily, I'm here for you now." She smiled, and I could see the relief in her eyes. "I know, Alex. I don't want anything to come between us. But I think it's important we talk about these things, rather than bury them." We both sat in silence for a while, letting the crackle of the fire fill the space between us. In that moment, I realized something important. Relationships aren't just about falling in love and being happy all the time. They're about facing challenges, dealing with insecurities, and growing together, even when new people enter the picture. As the days went on, I worked hard to make sure Emma felt secure in our relationship, and she did the same for me. We kept open communication, talking about our concerns, our feelings, and making sure we didn't let outside influences come between us. Mia and I remained friends, but I was mindful of my time with her, making sure it didn't overshadow my relationship with Emma. As for Jake, he and Emma continued to stay in touch, but she made it clear to him where her heart was, with me. As the weeks went by, things between Emma and me seemed to settle into a new rhythm. Mia and I remained good friends at work, but I made sure to keep things strictly professional. I noticed that Emma had started to relax about Mia, and we talked openly whenever any concerns came up. Similarly, Emma's connection with Jake had evolved into a comfortable friendship, and while I knew there were lingering feelings, I trusted her. We had reached a point where we were stronger, more open, and more honest with each other. But just as I thought everything was falling into place, life threw another unexpected twist our way, introducing yet another person who would change the dynamic: Rachel. Rachel was an old high school friend of mine. We hadn't seen each other in years, but she had recently moved back to the city and reached out to reconnect. I remembered Rachel as a fun, energetic person who was always full of life. Back in high school, we had been close, very close. There had even been a time when I thought we might become something more, but life took us in different directions, and nothing ever came of it. When Rachel texted me out of the blue, I was surprised but happy to hear from her. We agreed to meet for coffee one afternoon, just to catch up. I didn't think much of it. After all, it had been years, and we were just old friends catching up. But when I saw her sitting at the cafe, smiling at me with that same spark in her eyes, I felt a familiar rush of memories. Alex! Wow! It's been forever! Rachel greeted me with a big hug, her energy just as infectious as I remembered. We spent the next hour reminiscing about old times, laughing about our high school days, and talking about what we had been up to over the years. Rachel hadn't changed much. She was still the same bubbly, confident girl I remembered. But there was something else now. She had matured, become more grounded, and as we talked, I found myself enjoying her company more than I had expected. "So, are you seeing anyone?" Rachel asked casually as she sipped her coffee. "Yeah," I replied, smiling. "I'm with someone. Her name's Emma, and things are going really well." Rachel raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk on her face. "Well, that's great. I'm happy for you. You always deserved someone special." I thanked her, but something about the way she said it made me feel a little uneasy. It was as if there was an underlying tension in her words, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Still, I shrugged it off. We were just friends, right? After that coffee, Rachel and I started texting occasionally, mostly just casual conversations about work or life. But there was an energy between us that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but there was definitely a spark, and I knew I needed to be careful. One night, as Emma and I were cooking dinner together, she asked, "So, how was catching up with Rachel?" I hadn't told Emma much about Rachel yet, mostly because I didn't want to worry her unnecessarily, but I knew now was the time to be upfront. "It was nice," I said. "We talked about old times and what we've been up to. She's back in the city now, so we might hang out occasionally." Emma paused, stirring the pasta on the stove. "Rachel, that's the girl you were really close with in high school, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, but it's nothing like that. We're just friends." Emma looked at me, her expression calm but thoughtful. "I trust you, Alex. I do. But you know how these things go. Just be careful, okay?" "I will," I promised. "There's nothing to worry about." But deep down, I knew I had to keep an eye on my own feelings. Rachel wasn't just some random person from my past. She had been important to me once, and those old feelings, however faint, were still there. I couldn't let them interfere with what I had with Emma. As time went on, my interactions with Rachel remained friendly, but there was always that underlying tension, that unspoken connection that hung in the air whenever we talked. I found myself thinking about her more than I should, and I knew I needed to create some distance. Then one day, out of the blue, Rachel called me. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell something was wrong. "Alex, I need to talk to you," she said, her usual confidence gone. "Can we meet up?" I hesitated, knowing that meeting up with her might not be the best idea, but I also couldn't turn her down when she was clearly upset. "Okay," I agreed. "Let's meet at the park." When I arrived, Rachel was sitting on a bench, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable. As I sat down beside her, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. "I don't know how to say this, Alex, but I've been struggling ever since we reconnected. Seeing you again brought back a lot of feelings I thought I'd buried." My heart sank. I hadn't expected this, but I knew what she meant. There had always been something between us, even back in high school, but we had never acted on it. "I'm with Emma," I said softly, trying to make things clear. "I know," Rachel whispered, "and I don't want to come between you two, but I had to tell you how I feel." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. This was exactly what I had been afraid of. The last thing I wanted was to hurt Emma again, or to lead Rachel on. "I care about you, Rachel," I said, choosing my words carefully. "But Emma is the person I want to be with. I can't let anything get in the way of that." Rachel nodded, wiping away a tear. "I understand. I just needed to get it off my chest." We sat there for a while, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. Eventually, Rachel stood up, gave me a small smile, and walked away. When I got home that night, Emma could tell something was on my mind. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently. I looked at her, knowing that I had to be honest. Rachel told me she still has feelings for me. Emma's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't seem surprised. "And what did you say?" "I told her I'm with you, and that's not going to change." Emma smiled, relief washing over her face. "Thank you for being honest, Alex. I know this isn't easy, but I trust you." In that moment, I realized how much I had grown, how much Emma and I had grown together. Yes, there were always going to be new people, new challenges, but as long as we kept communicating, kept choosing each other, we could face anything. And so, life moved forward once again. Rachel and I drifted apart, and Emma and I continued to build our life together, stronger than ever. Life, as it tends to, continued to evolve. Emma and I had weathered the storms of old feelings, new faces, and unexpected twists. We had built something stronger than before, but there were still moments when I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. Rachel, Mia, and Jake, they had all been part of our journey, but Emma and I had come out on top. We chose each other every day, and that choice made all the difference. One day, as Emma and I were relaxing at home after a long week, she looked at me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Alex," she began, "we've been through a lot together. I feel like we've really grown, both as individuals and as a couple. But there's one more thing I think we should talk about." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's on your mind?" Emma hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Marriage. I mean, we've been together for a while now. Don't you think it's time we talked about what comes next? The word marriage hung in the air between us, and I felt my heart skip a beat. It wasn't that I hadn't thought about it. I had. But hearing Emma bring it up made it feel so real, like the next chapter in our story was waiting to be written. I took a deep breath, reaching out to take her hand. I've thought about it too, Emma. I want to be with you. Forever. But I guess I was waiting for the right time to bring it up. Emma grinned, her eyes sparkling. Well, I'm bringing it up now. What do you think? Are we ready? I looked into her eyes, feeling a wave of love and gratitude for everything we had been through. Yeah, Emma, I think we are. And just like that, the conversation shifted from a hypothetical future to a real one. We started talking about what kind of wedding we'd want, where we'd want to live, what our dreams for the future looked like. It was exciting, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of certainty about where we were headed. But, as life often does, it threw one more curveball our way. A few weeks after our marriage conversation, I got a call from an old friend of mine, Mark. We hadn't been in touch for years, but he had heard through mutual friends that I was doing well, and he wanted to reconnect. Mark was the kind of guy who brought energy wherever he went. He had always been the life of the party, and back in the day, we had been inseparable. We decided to meet up for drinks one evening, and when I walked into the bar, there he was, grinning from ear to ear like no time had passed at all. Alex! Man, it's been too long. Mark pulled me into a bear hug, and immediately I felt like I had stepped back into our old days of hanging out. We spent the evening catching up, laughing about old memories and talking about where life had taken us. Mark had been through his share of ups and downs, but he was still the same outgoing, spontaneous guy I remembered. Toward the end of the night, after a few beers, Mark leaned in and said, "So, what's new with you, man? You seeing anyone?" I smiled, feeling a warm glow at the thought of Emma. "Yeah, actually. Her name's Emma, and things are pretty serious. We've been talking about getting married." Mark's eyes lit up. "No way!" "That's awesome, man. But you're sure about this? I mean, marriage is a big deal." I nodded. "I'm sure. Emma's amazing. We've been through a lot together, and I know she's the one." Mark raised his glass. "Well, cheers to that. But hey, before you settle down for good, we've got to have one last adventure. Just like old times." I laughed, not taking him too seriously. "What do you have in mind?" Mark's grin widened. "A road trip. You, me, a couple of old friends, one last crazy weekend before you're officially off the market." I hesitated. The idea of a road trip sounded fun, especially with Mark, but I also knew that my life was different now. I wasn't the same carefree guy I had been back when Mark and I were inseparable. Still, the thought of one last adventure before diving into the next phase of my life was tempting. "I'll think about it," I said, not wanting to commit right away. When I got home that night, I told Emma about Mark's idea. She smiled, but there was a hint of caution in her eyes. "Sounds like fun," she said. "But just remember, Alex, we've been through a lot. Don't let anything come between us now." Her words stuck with me. She wasn't trying to stop me from having fun or spending time with old friends, but I knew she was right. I needed to be mindful of the choices I made, especially now that we were on the verge of starting a new chapter together. Over the next few days, Mark kept texting me, trying to get me on board for the road trip. And while the idea still seemed fun, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. I wasn't that guy anymore, the one who lived for spontaneous adventures and wild weekends. I had responsibilities now, and more importantly, I had Emma. One evening, as Emma and I were sitting on the couch, I turned to her and said, "You know, I don't think I'm going to go on that road trip with Mark." Emma looked at me, surprised. "Really? I thought you were excited about it." "I was," I admitted, "but the more I think about it, the more I realize that I don't need one last adventure. I've already had plenty of those. What I want now is to build our life together." Emma's smile was warm and full of love. "I'm glad you feel that way. But Alex, if you want to go, I won't stop you. I trust you." "I know," I said, pulling her close. "But I don't need to. You're my adventure now." And in that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. Life would always throw new people, new opportunities, and new challenges my way, but as long as I had Emma, I knew I could face anything. Some practical examples that tie into the themes of commitment, trust, growth, and navigating relationships with past friendships, like Alex's story with Emma, Rachel, and Mark. These examples can offer insight into how similar situations play out in real life. 1. Setting boundaries with past relationships. Scenario: imagine you're in a serious relationship, and an old flame or close friend from the past, like Rachel, reaches out to reconnect. You have fond memories of this person, and there's a chance that they still have feelings for you, but your commitment is to your current partner. Practical approach: communicate with your partner. Be open and transparent about the situation. Let your partner know who this person is, what your history is, and what kind of relationship you plan to have now, just like Alex did with Emma. Set clear boundaries. Decide together how much interaction is appropriate with this person. For example, you might agree not to hang out with them one-on-one if there's potential for emotional confusion. Be honest with the friend. If they express feelings, make it clear that you are in a committed relationship. It's important not to give mixed signals or lead them on. Limit interaction if necessary. If the connection with the past friend causes tension or complications in your current relationship, it may be necessary to step back to protect your relationship, like Alex eventually did with Rachel. Second, balancing friendships and relationships. Scenario: you're in a committed relationship, but a close friend, like Mark, wants to take a spontaneous trip or engage in activities that might not align with your current priorities, especially when you're considering major life changes like marriage. Practical approach: evaluate priorities. Consider where you are in your life and how much time and energy you want to invest in certain friendships. If you're prioritizing building a life with your partner, some friendships might need to shift in importance, just like Alex realized with Mark. Involve your partner. Talk to your partner about your friendship and the planned activities. Ask for their input and feelings about it. If they support it, it can strengthen trust. However, if they have reservations, it's important to weigh those concerns carefully. Stay true to yourself. If you feel like your life is moving in a different direction from your old friends, that's okay. You don't have to feel pressured to relive old habits or go on wild adventures just because a friend expects it. 3. Facing feelings from the past scenario. You're in a relationship, and suddenly, unresolved feelings from a past relationship surface, like Rachel's feelings for Alex. It can be tempting to explore those feelings, but you need to decide what's best for you and your current partner. Practical approach. Reflect on your current relationship. Are you happy and fulfilled in your relationship? If so, it's important to acknowledge that those past feelings are based on old memories, not your present reality. Distance yourself. If necessary, sometimes the best way to avoid emotional confusion is to create distance from the person who stirs those feelings. You can be kind but firm in saying that your focus is on your current partner. Stay honest with your partner. If you feel comfortable, share what's happening emotionally with your partner. They may appreciate your honesty and trust you even more for being upfront, as Alex did with Emma. 4th, navigating trust issues scenario. Trust is a fundamental part of any relationship, but when past relationships or friendships, like Rachel or Mark, come into the picture, it can create insecurities in your current partner. Practical approach. Reassurance. Through actions. It's important to not just say you're committed, but also show it through your actions. This could mean reducing contact with past partners, being transparent about your interactions, or prioritizing your partner's feelings. Open communication. Create an environment where your partner feels safe to express their concerns without judgment. Talk openly about boundaries and what makes them feel secure. Show commitment. In Alex's case, he reassured Emma by turning down the road trip with Mark. Small acts of prioritizing your relationship over other potential distractions show your partner that they come first. 5. Handling major relationship decisions. Scenario. You and your partner are at a stage where you're discussing big commitments, like moving in together, getting married, or making future plans. But a major life event or a spontaneous opportunity, like Mark's trip suggestion, tests how ready you are to settle down. Practical approach. Take time to reflect. Before making any big decisions, whether it's a trip, a job offer, or even a proposal, take time to think about how it aligns with your long-term goals. Alex realized that his old lifestyle wasn't as appealing anymore because his priorities had shifted toward Emma. Talk about the future. Have deep conversations with your partner about what both of you want. This helps you align your future plans and avoid impulsive decisions that could hurt your relationship. Make choices that support your relationship. When faced with tempting options, always think about the impact on your relationship. Prioritizing your commitment, as Alex did by choosing Emma over an adventure with Mark, is often the healthiest approach. 6. Strengthening your relationship. After challenges, scenario. After overcoming challenges like temptations or past feelings, you and your partner have the chance to grow stronger together. Practical approach. Celebrate milestones. Together. After working through tough situations, take time to appreciate how far you've come. Plan a special date or have a conversation reflecting on how much you've grown together. Keep growing together. Continue to set new goals as a couple, whether it's personal, professional, or in your relationship. Growth doesn't stop after one challenge is overcome. Keep evolving together. Build a stronger foundation. Learn from past experiences to strengthen your relationship moving forward. Alex and Emma's ability to communicate and be honest helped them navigate future challenges with confidence.